Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. The Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6, and any other applicable laws on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. All matters listed may involve a decision and possible vote. All hearings of the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6. Although a single decision of the Commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. We'll have a roll call, please, starting with Autumn.
Autumn Wood.
Paula Jean O'Neill.
Carol Melanson.
Sandy Slavin.
Michael Mercier.
Donna Colbert.
Joshua Faraday.
Joseph Still.
Thank you. First hearing, please.
Madam Chair, before you start, do you want to announce continuances?
Oh, all right, let's see. We have Prime Engineering that's continued until today. Faring Hill LLC is continued today. Nielsen's, okay. So do you have some new ones that aren't already on the agenda?
Yep, so Prime Engineering, 370 County Road, has requested a continuance to March 20th. Russell McKinnon, 28 Nelson Street, has requested a continuance to March 6th. 2 Seahorse Lane, Leanne Dancy has requested a continuance to March 6th. And Ronald and Susan Schmidt of 15 Narrows Road requested a continuance to 3/6. Most of these continuances were to give the commission time to review material that wasn't submitted before your deadline. So we have since received new material for all those projects.
Okay, thank you. All right. So for those that are listed, we will have no discussion on any of those projects. On you go, Carol.
Okay. First one, let's see. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. This is a request for a determination of applicability for Warren, 186 Main Street.
176.
I'm sorry, 176 Main Street, Q0ZB LLC, P.O. Box 1206, Carver, Mass. 02330. Site improvements include crushed stone parking and circulation areas, subsurface drainage system, handicap parking area, concrete patio, grease interceptor, and sanitary manhole installation and other site improvements as shown on the plans. Map 47, Lot 1113, 176 Main Street, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Who's here representing this project?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Grady, GAF Engineering.
Thank you, Brian. You're up.
I don't know if you have all seen this project before, but it has been before this commission previously for an RDA. We've been asked to come back. There have been some revisions, minor revisions to the plan. They're in the process of seeking a building permit, so we've just been asked to come back and revalidate the plan and get a determination on it. Not much has changed since this commission last saw it. Some minor drainage, landscape additions to the plan. I think some striping in the parking area, but in essence, it's basically the same plan. If you're all familiar with it, they're converting this building to a restaurant. So there's some work putting a grease trap in the front parking area to serve the kitchen. There's a sewer manhole, so that'll really be the only pavement that's disturbed as part of this project, is to put in the tank and the new manhole to make the connection to the municipal sewer system. and some landscape improvements in front, and some striping of the pavement. Other than that, the majority of the work is behind the building in the higher ground. And so their only resource area here is land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's no buffer zone work, no riverfront work.
Thank you. Josh, your comments?
1 second, I want to pull up the previous plan, the plan that was previously approved by the commission. I would say that it's a little more than minor site changes. I don't see an issue with the site changes, but from what was approved originally, there are, I would say, a little bit more. So here what I'll do is I'll share, this was what was previously approved by the commission. And it was a 10-foot wide gravel access path in the back with that middle section kind of remaining a basin for the collection of water. And in the new proposal, this basin here is it's going to remain crushed stone, but it's going to be for parking.
What's the date on that plan, Josh?
December 20th of 22, December 27th, 22. I believe this was the last RDA that you had submitted to the
Well, I
commission.
thought there was one with a July 23 date on it. That's the one I was looking at and referring to, not to this one, but I could be mistaken. There's been a number of revisions to this.
There has been. Let me see.
Isn't it because I know the back slope was an issue, that they started clearing the back slope without approval.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started. There was a complaint or an enforcement, I don't know, work on that back slope. And then we responded to that. But I thought it was the July 23 plan that was where the determination was made, but I could be mistaken.
So I do see that you have a determination from August of 23 that was issued by the commission. I don't have a plan for that. So this was the most recent plan that I was looking at. I'm not
Okay,
saying your plan may look different than this. This is just what I had reviewed.
Yeah, this is the previously approved plan, which shows the stone parking in the back and the
Oh,
leaching
okay.
pits and the drainage, so it's very similar to,
Oh, okay.
What's-
It's more similar than this, the
Much-
one that I'm
much more, yes.
presenting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Understood. I don't know why I don't have that plan. If you could share that plan with me
I can-
after today.
email that to you tomorrow, sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think it changes the fact that I don't see any issue with the proposed project.
All right, questions? Autumn,
No questions, thank you.
Paula Jean,
No questions, thank you.
Carol,
No questions, thank you.
Michael.
Maybe just one, most likely concern, maybe not necessarily a conservation issue. There are going to be handicapped parking labeled, correct?
Yes,
Signs and at least a label on the streets.
The handicap accessible spaces will be to the rear of the building.
All right.
Because of the elevation differences inside the building. Those spaces will be paved, and the rest of the parking here in the back will be stone.
Okay, thank you.
No questions.
Thank you. Joe?
None for me.
Is there anybody who'd like to comment on this project online or in the audience? I'm seeing none. I need someone to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second,
I have a motion to close the hearing in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 500. Hearing's closed. Josh, your recommendation, please.
Recommendation is a -2 and a -5.
Motion to accept with a -2 and a -5.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Thank you.
You have it? No work until you get the paperwork.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Next one, please.
This is a request for a notice of intent for Cullen McKenna, 3 East Edgewater Drive, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to upgrade a septic system on and adjacent to a coastal bank within land subject to coastal storm flowage and within the riverfront area. Map 35, Lot 46, 3 East Edgewater Drive, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here representing this project?
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Okay, Brad, you're up.
Again, this property is located at 3 East Edgewater Drive, and involves the upgrade of an existing septic system. The current septic includes a 1,500-gallon tank to 2 leaching chambers that are located to the right side of the structure, shown in gray hatch on the plan. We are proposing to install a new complete septic system, including a 1,500-gallon tank with microfast insert and 3 concrete chambers on the left-hand side. Due to the space, we're proposing a longer and skinnier system to maximize the setbacks from property lines and structure. The existing system will be pumped and crushed and filled, so there's no future collapse. We decided felt that this side would be best because there'd be minimal vegetation removal on this side of the left side of the structure. Actually, looking at it this morning, I forgot to stake it out if anybody was there.
You didn't?
But on the right-hand side, there were a number of raised garden beds and some trees and some, I guess, ornamental flowering bushes shown on the plan. On the right-hand side, most of it's grass. There is 1 or 2 trees up closer to the street that would be impacted. But the rest of the area, including the area around the house, is all currently grass at the moment. Due to the slopes, there is some coastal bank in the area. We're running tanks pretty much right on the top of the coastal bank, and the leaching facility is just above it. Looking at the slopes over there, I think some of the fill on the left side of the house may have been placed there when the house was constructed. We did encounter about 1.5 feet of fill on that test pit, so which brought the grade up, which increased the slope of that area. And due to the most recent flood zone maps, the elevation over the former maps at the time, back in I think 92 or so, had it around elevation 15. Now it's elevation 16. So because of the slopes, that there is, by definition, a coastal bank in that area. It is all currently grass. We're going to currently disturb it temporarily to install the components, backfill it, regrade it back to similar grades, regrass it, and hopefully look like it was never disturbed.
Josh, your comments, please.
The septic is an improvement on what currently exists, and I see no issues with that. More of my comments are based on other parts of the property. Along the fence line, it looked like there was a lot of brush that was cut. Was that cut for your test pit?
Not for the test pit, and if it was there when we did the test pit, I may not have overseen it. I did submit I did submit some pictures in the application that just kind of show around. It's up near the letter. I did make a note about removing an old wooden dock or platform that's sitting on the coastal bank, so I was aware of that and made note of it on the plan.
It doesn't. So all this brush here looks like it was cut from somewhere, but the pictures that you provide, don't really give a good description of where it may have come from. So it's all this brush that's stacked up here appears to be cut, and then there was some more brush on the coastal bank that appeared to be cut as well.
But in that last picture, you showed the decking that's going to be removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the right-hand side
Yeah, I
there.
have another. Let me pull up some of the photos that I took. This is a better picture of that brush. Again, I just couldn't tell where it came from. It didn't look like it came from anywhere in the yard.
Those tree branches? Or,
It looks like it might have been a rhododendron or something.
okay.
Yeah, that rhododendron in the front was major pruned.
And maybe that's what they were then. And then it looks like there were, it looks like some of the site just needs to be cleaned up. There's some, old construction debris from what looks like improvements of this deck on the coastal bank that should be cleaned up. I do have questions about the lifeboat. Is that what we're terming this as? I assume it doesn't function as a boat?
It's old. There's a story behind it. I don't know the story, but,
my concern with it is if it's not an active vessel, really what it's doing is laying in the resource area and preventing, natural growth. And then it looked like there was some other brush that had been cut behind the shed on the coastal bank, or, the bank down to the water. But those were my three concerns with the property.
All right, questions? Autumn?
Hi, I'm just curious about the 2 trees by the soil absorption system. Did you state that those were gonna be removed? to be
probably
able
have to be removed with the,
Okay.
being close to the root system.
Thank you.
Definitely one of them.
Okay. Paula Jean?
No other questions, thank you.
Carol?
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
No questions, thank you.
Donna?
No questions, thank you.
Joe?
None for me.
Okay. Then someone's going to have to remove all their raised beds in order to remove the absorption system chambers to be pumped and filled.
They're going to expose the cover, pump it, and
Oh,
then,
there,
and
okay.
fill it through the inspection port.
There's no issue with the roof runoff going to that area as it is draining right now?
I don't believe so. I think everything kind of properly pitches away from the house as it is.
Okay. So, anybody in the audience or online that would like to comment to this particular project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second?
I have a motion to close the hearing in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Josh, your recommendations, please.
To approve the project with the standard order, the conditions, and I think that the commission should have a discussion about, some of the pruning or vista pruning or clearing of vegetation and the boat that's sitting in the water there.
And I think we should include that the dock, the wood deck patio, all the material be removed from site.
Yeah, Brad does propose that.
Okay.
The deck that is there.
That was the one item I definitely could see being needed to be removed.
Motion
Wait,
to,
Just,
no, you're not done?
do you want to discuss the lifeboat now or wait for another?
I think it's appropriate to discuss it now. You don't have to acknowledge it in an enforcement. You can easily take up the matter under the order of conditions. I have been doing this job for over a year now, and that boat has been there. I don't know how the commission has felt about it previously, or if it's just something that's...
I don't think we've seen it before.
It's pretty visible from the road. Yeah, I see it every time I drive down that road.
Well, I try not to go down east. I try not to go down East Edgewater. I still have shock absorbers. Oh,
It's not from East Edgewater.
so I should be able to see it from Indian Nick. Is the dock approved and permitted?
I don't see, I looked, I didn't see anything. any type of license on it. It was one thing that I know that you've been asking for recently,
Yeah,
so.
I would assume that it's probably not. I would say unofficially, it's probably something the commission could approve. It doesn't fall within shellfish habitat, so.
We'll just, okay, so, I think we should condition that the lifeboat be removed from the resource area.
Yeah. Brad, you did mention that there was a story behind it. Is there some
It's-
significance to the history of Wareham that it
No, I
exists,
don't
or-
believe so, no.
Okay.
No, no.
All right.
And
Like I
it
said-
might have been the prior owners. I think the
Yeah.
property recently sold,
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was there last week, and Cullen McKenna came out. He's very nice. I like to let people know I'm prowling around their yard before
Yeah,
I
of
surprise
course.
them. And he said he had just been there 4 months, and it was the septic was being redone as a condition of the sale by the prior owner. So I'm thinking he inherited it as is.
And I think it's appropriate for the commission to require the removal. It's within a resource area, and it's basically abandoned at this point.
I'm sure it's all full of water, being wide open like it is. Probably leaks when the tide goes out. It's probably no bottom to it. Okay, so we've closed the hearing. We have the recommendation. Someone want to take a shot at the order of conditions?
Motion to accept the project with the standard order of conditions, with the addition of the lifeboat being removed from the resource area. Anything else? There's nothing else going in there, is there?
I think that does it.
There was some construction material that
Oh.
should be removed as well.
And some construction material that needs to be removed as well.
And if
In the
commission-
dock, in that wooden platform.
Right, yeah, that's part of your
All right.
proposal anyway.
Okay.
So it doesn't really need to be conditioned. But if the commission wants to make a determination on the existing dock,
I think we've got our order of conditions with the two components that was discussed. Anything else, anybody? If not,
I'll go ahead and second if that's
I
fine.
have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Done. No work without your paperwork.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, please.
Number 3 is a notice of, a request for a notice of intent for Hamilton Beach Association, P.O. Box 365, Wareham, Mass. 02571. I don't have any other information on it. Where is it? For beach nourishment on the east end of Hamilton Beach, 1 through 17 Reynolds Ave, map 50F, lot 1049, 0 Worrell Ave, off Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here representing this project, please?
Thank you, Brian Grady with GAF Engineering, and Mr. Pastor from Hamilton Beach Association is here as well, if you have any questions.
You're up.
This is a beach nourishment project down at the east end of Hamilton Beach. In response to some storm damage, there has been some erosion. They're looking to place approximately 400 yards of sand to restore the natural contours of the beach. You can see on the plan that's in front of you, so 400 yards would be approximately 20 truckloads. We'd be looking to dump those at the access to the beach and using some,
Sorry, just
Well-
20 truckloads.
so the material will be delivered to the beach, probably come from reed sand or gravel, which I believe that has been used for beach nourishment in the area previously. Gradation will be provided prior to the material being approved. And we will start at the far end, the northerly end of the beach, placing of material. We'd like to use a front-end loader to place the material and then grade it with a small D4 bulldozer possibly. Using the right equipment would limit the time and duration of the project, which we have to work around, obviously, tides and weather occurrences, so getting the appropriate equipment down on the beach will minimize the duration of the project. We think it could be accomplished in 4 to 5 days with the appropriate equipment. I don't know how many of you were able to get out to the site. Bob prepared this work. He's not able to be here tonight, so I'm a little at a loss for the minute details on the project, but fairly straightforward. Beach nourishment, there's a beach grass island in the middle. You can see there that we're calling to be protected by some sand fence during the duration of the project, and any of the beach grass areas will be protected during the duration of the project. And if we could respond to any questions.
Okay, Josh?
So my comment, of course, would be to get like material and have it be approved prior to any start of any spreading. Historically, the commission, I think, has not allowed machinery to do work on beaches. That's not a requirement of the State Wetlands Protection Act. I think that's just a stance that your commission has taken. So, not to say that it's right or wrong, it's just not a requirement of the Wetlands Protection Act. Nor is it a requirement of our bylaw currently, so.
Well, Town Beach down in Sandwich has been in the news quite a bit in the last few years, and if you've seen any of the pictures of that, they're large excavators, large front-end dozers, articulating dump trucks, but that's significantly more material than here. So equipment on a beach is not an uncommon occurrence. Duxbury restoration nourishment projects, I've seen pictures of steel track excavators on the beach. So it's not an uncommon occurrence to get equipment, the appropriate equipment on the beach to do the job. We could get out there with a small rubber track bobcat and maybe take 2 or 3 times the duration to accomplish the same thing. I just think with the right equipment and the proper operators, it would minimize the duration of the project without any adverse effects.
Questions? Autumn?
Hello, thank you for speaking to this project. I know you had mentioned that you didn't prepare this yourself. I did have a question about the sand fences. In the plans, it states that they're going to be removed and relocated to protect the vegetation on the beach. Will those fences be replaced to their current location, or are they going to be removed completely from the site?
Those fences are just seasonal, so they do get removed.
Okay. Okay, and then the only other question I had is, I see that there's a bench at the entrance to the beach. Is that going to prevent any equipment or materials from getting onto the beach for the nourishment?
No, it shouldn't, and we were able to.
Can you come forward and sit at the table, please, and identify yourself? Thank you.
No, we can move that bench if.
Please identify yourself.
Carrie Pastor, President of the Hamilton Beach Association. Does that answer your question? We can move it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Paula Jean?
Well, I was going to ask, I walked around down there and I saw all the different random chunks of snow fence sticking in the sand here and there, and wondered what is that permanent, or will that be all gone when this job is done?
Those are removed seasonally, correct?
They do that annually?
Yes, we do. If it wasn't,
Okay.
quick story, Mrs. Slavin, 15, 17 years ago, sent me down to Truro and Chatham to go talk to park rangers about how to set up winter fences. And I've done it ever since to help slow down the erosion.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense then. And the other thought I had, and maybe I just don't know that much, it's a learning process about beach nourishment. I thought the ocean giveth and the ocean taketh away, and sometimes storms come and you gain sand, and then other years you lose sand. what's to keep that from just happening again, and every couple of years, we'll have to bring in another 20 dump trucks worth of sand?
Well, a lot of beach projects, nourishment projects, it's called sacrificial sand, so
Okay.
it comes and goes.
All right. Now, on the Part Marsh, right over there, when you're walking towards the ocean on the right, there's an old York rake with a grater blade. It looks like a sort of abandoned laying there. I don't know if it still gets used. It looked like a piece of metal junk on the marsh, and I wondered about that.
It's a York rake, and that's
Yeah.
what our contractor in the summer does to clean the beaches with and pick up the seaweed and
And
dispose of it.
It's just stored on the marsh
Store it
grass?
there, yes.
Well, I don't know if is that okay to have that in the 30-foot zone, or just stored there?
I don't remember seeing it.
Probably not an appropriate place to store it.
We can,
Okay. Those were my questions, and there's some bags of kitty sand in plastic, just to keep the erosion coming from the road going in more. And I don't know if there's more that's underneath the sand, but you will be taking that out and getting rid of the plastic?
yes,
Yeah, okay,
we will, thank you.
thank you.
Harold,
No questions, thank you.
Michael,
There are no endangered species on the site that would be impacted by any of this?
Well, we have made a MESA filing, so we're waiting for that to come back, so we expect a continuance.
All right, thank you.
Donna.
I wonder if you know if there's a history of this having been done previously, and how long ago was it, the nourishment of the beach?
You're dating myself. I believe when I was a young child, in 1966, when they dredged down there in Broad Marsh Cove in the Wareham River. And my date may be off a year or two. They piled up all the spoils onto the beach, and they left them there for a couple of years to what we call dry out and bleach out. And then a machine came in and plowed it all over.
And it hasn't been done since then?
Well, it has not been done.
Okay, that's good. I have no further questions, thank you.
Joe.
Everyone in the association is knowing the equipment you guys are bringing onto the beach?
I didn't hear the beginning of that.
Everyone in the association around there is knowing you're bringing this kind of equipment onto the beach for this duration of the
Yes,
project?
yes.
Okay, okay. No more questions.
Didn't we recently do some restoration to the south side of this beach a couple years ago, maybe?
Madam Chairperson, yes, what we call the front beach off
Okay.
of Worrell Ave, the main
Yep.
entrance there. We had that severe erosion with the storm there, and we had that safety issue with the 5-foot trench about 50.
Oh, yes, you did.
Yes, right, very, very, yeah. And Buzzards Bay Coalition worked with us.
Okay.
Recommendation from the town, and we went in, and yes, and we were able to fill 2/3 of that hole in.
You got
Funds
some
were-
nice plantings and
yes,
some
plantings are all done, yes,
erosion control.
correct.
Yep. At high tide, the area you're going to fill in is always underwater at high tide?
Not always. It's recently had, since the storm, the water
Well, it
can
was a
creep up,
nasty
yes.
storm, yeah. Now, it looks like the north end of this restoration area is the low slope area where the water seems to be coming in around. I'm trying to think, how is the water getting into this area that you're about to restore? I'm thinking the north end seems to
Yes,
be the lowest.
It comes around the corner, and I believe it heads up towards Broad Marsh Cove. And it kind of turns around, and it's come up because the sand there, down by that wall at what we call the point, has eroded and the water's risen.
Okay. When you'll be working with this equipment you'll start at the north end and then back away to cover up any type of disturbance your machinery has done, you'll be filling back toward the walkway.
Correct.
And there'll be no attempt to do anything around the grasses or anything like that.
Another one, Loppy.
Anybody online would like to comment on this project? Anybody? Anybody in the audience would like to comment any further on this project? Josh, if I'm hearing right, we want to say that there has to be like material, so there has to be some type of testing to say they've got the right material. And there'll be no disturbance of the grass area. Am I missing anything? There will be some equipment on the beach, whether it be a front-end loader and a small bulldozer.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be explicitly stated.
No, but I'm just trying
But
to...
you can allow it, yes.
Okay,
I would say the beach rake shouldn't be stored where it is. I would also mention that you shouldn't burn the previous year's snow fence and leave a big pile of metal on the beach.
Yes.
there is a pretty nasty pile of metal on that beach. Was that from,
That was from the storm that demolished all the fences, and we burnt the fences down. Got a permit from the town of Wareham, and those, that wire that's left over is being removed.
oh, I thought you had a great beach party with that pile of,
We attempted that, but we weren't allowed to.
that was quite a burned pile.
It was. It only lasted about 45 minutes. That's how fast they burnt up.
Okay, so that will be removed.
Yes, it will.
All right, hearing nothing else,
Motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion to close the hearing.
But then he said that we have to extend it, because he's
Did
still
you-
waiting for a...
We don't have a
we don't have a
DEP number yet.
Oh, we don't have a DEP, so need a motion to continue until,
Did you receive one? Oh, I looked at the state website right before I came over.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't, I did
updated.
too. It wasn't on the website, but we did get an
We did
email,
receive one.
2836.
Oh, okay.
But we are waiting
Um,
for MISA.
Yeah, so MISA has 30 days to respond to the filing of the notice of intent, and they haven't yet, so we at least need to wait for that deadline to pass.
all right, so I guess that is, we are asked for a continuance until March 6th.
So, motion to continue till March 6th then?
I have the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. 500. We'll continue it until March
Does
6th.
that give you 30 days?
Yes, I think it does.
Well, if not, then we'll
If not,
continue
then we'll have to
again.
continue. Yeah, exactly, that's what, that's what I was about to say. if
Yeah, it
not,
looks like
well,
you submitted it to me on February 6th, so,
Yeah, and we would have mailed it out probably
Yeah.
that day or the prior day. There should be the white slip in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the next one, please.
Okay, it's a notice of intent for Donna Gully, 4 Seahorse Lane, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to upgrade a failed sewage disposal system. Map 52, lots N1.A and N2, 4 Seahorse Lane, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here representing the project, please?
Brian Grady, GAF Engineering.
And thank you for staking it out.
I remembered once.
All right, you're up.
Thank you. What this is, upgrading a failed sewage disposal system at this property. Portion of the work in the buffer zone to an adjacent wetland. That work includes the placement of a 1,500-gallon septic tank with a microfast unit, 1,000-gallon pump chamber, associated force main. We are pumping to the leaching field located adjacent to the street, as far away from the wetlands as we can make it. That work is still in land subject to coastal storm flowage, but it is outside the buffer zone to the wetland. Minor bit of work adjacent to the house to fill in the old cesspool, which isn't very big at all. That'd probably be some hand labor, but we are calling for a short section of siltation fence along that side of the property. And if I could answer any questions.
Josh, please.
I have no comments.
Okay, Autumn,
No questions, thank you.
Paula Jean,
No questions, thank you.
Carol,
No questions, thank you.
Michael,
No questions, thank you.
Donna,
No questions.
Joe.
No questions.
Are you serviced by town water or is there a well?
It's town water. There's an abandoned well on the property, but the house is served by municipal water.
So that abandoned well will not be used in any way?
No.
Okay, because I know the house at 2 Seahorse wants to keep one of their wells for irrigation. So but there's nothing on this property.
Correct, and the setback's only 25 feet for irrigation wells.
Okay. All right, anybody here to comment on this particular project? Anybody online? Is there anybody online? Oh, okay.
All right, motion to close the hearing?
Yeah, I have a motion. Okay, you have a hand up. Put it down.
All right, motion to close the hearing then.
Second.
Have a motion to close the hearing in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. It's approved. No, the hearing's closed. Sorry. Russian. Okay, Josh, your recommendations, please.
Standard order of conditions.
All right, motion approved with standing order of conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, we're 500. Okey-doke, you have it. No work until you get your paperwork.
Of course, all right, thank you.
And I saw you this afternoon walking. Little D,
With my dog?
yes.
Yeah, I have her all
Every
week.
time I go to the library, the post office, I've been bumping into this little puppy.
You go to the post office too much.
Thank you. All right, we have a request to continue Prime Engineering 370 County Road until March 20th.
Motion to accept or?
Continue.
Okay, motion to continue until March 20th?
I have the
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, is continued 500.
I'll give a little context of that project. So they went in front of the planning board. The planning board had a lot of revisions that they made from the first time we saw that application. So they made those revisions, and now it is being peer reviewed by our peer review consultant. So we are waiting for his letter.
And taking a look at the new plans that came out, everything seems to be outside of the 50-foot, so we're waiting for the peer review.
Correct.
They really did move this project out of our jurisdiction. So we're waiting on peer review. All right. The next hearing continued is Faring Hill LLC, County Road 2004 Realty Trust, Hidden Trails. Is there anybody here representing this project? Please come forward. Okay.
Good evening.
Evening, Madam Chairman.
Good evening.
Please identify yourselves for the record.
Okay, Brad Bertolow's going to do the technical presentation to you, and Peter Teitelbaum, the attorney for the project.
Thank you. And I had the opportunity to go visit the site, because last time there was a site visit, I couldn't walk. So Peter and Brad were kind enough to give up their Sunday to allow me to walk it, barely. Thank you.
I
Did pretty well
wonder,
for somebody coming off of major issues.
I tried. All right. Okay, up
So
you
just
go,
by way of
Brad.
introduction, if you want me to
Please
just
go.
explain why we're here
It's
tonight.
on your side.
Yep. We received the Allen and Major report in early January. Since then, Brad has been going out, checking off their concerns, looking at their requests to remark things, looking at their suggestions of some things being moved. And so those things are all done. That was posted online today. I don't know how many of you had a chance to take a look at it.
Well, yeah, so the plan revisions were actually uploaded, I believe, January 10th. We had acknowledgement on January 12th, which was last Monday, that the consultant had received our revised plans. Today, I uploaded, and I see Josh has them posted, some presentation plans for this evening, some color-coded maps to go through some of the changes that have been made since the original submittal. I have hard copies if anybody wants a hard copy of any of those documents that are up there.
Yeah, please, I'll take one, thank you.
Just one of each.
I'm all set.
Peter.
How about me over here? Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't want to be next to the sick one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the 4-week-old baby
you.
at home.
Oh, Peter, you gave me two.
There's two different copies of plans there, Peter.
Okay, I'm just going
Yeah. That was, so I'm passing out a color-coded map, just a brief rundown of this project. It's been a while since we presented in front of you, so I just want to recap. We're before you under notice of intent for approval to construct a roadway, utilities, grading, drainage structures for a 56-lot subdivision. We're before you just for the approval for the road work. This is a cluster development. It's 153 acres. The open space will comprise about 76% of the property. That includes the 30.5 acre pond. The areas shown in yellow are where we're intending to develop the lot under a cluster, so it's going to preserve a lot of open space clustered together, as opposed to a conventional plan, which would include probably twice the amount of roadway length and encompass a majority of the property. So that's just an overview. It's a plan we presented to the planning board, just to give you a sense of the project as a whole. So the other document we have is 4 pages. It's specifically the grading and drainage sheets that highlight the areas where work is being performed within resource areas. So Allen and Major, the consultant that had reviewed this plan, completed 3 separate reviews, one for the planning board, which mainly dealt with all of drainage and standard engineering practice. And then under this commission, they had a consultant review the resource areas, wetland flags, and adjacent resource areas that are within 100 feet of the proposed work. And then they also completed a review under the Wetlands Protection Act and local regulations. The most recent review was January 3rd, so that's why it's taken this time to get to this point. So the first change I'd like to discuss is the resource areas. So on the page that's before you, a small little isolated wetland was delineated. If you would pan up a little bit. Yeah, that right there. So the lower left-hand corner, that right where the cursor is, there's a small little wetland pocket there. It's an isolated wetland. It's non-jurisdictional under the state, jurisdictional under the local bylaw. It appears to be, and the consultant agrees, area dug out for past cranberry bog activities, possibly area that they use to dig out sand to feed the bogs in the vicinity. That small isolated wetland happens to be within the footprint of the roadway, and we are proposing 1,400 square feet of isolated wetland alteration. Another review or change to the resource areas, as if you would have pan up a little bit on the right-hand side of the screen, there was an old ditch that seemed to carry either stormwater runoff or was part of the bog activities between the abutter to the north and the abutter to the south, that where there's some old abandoned cranberry bog. There were a couple culverts where water would drain through this property through a ditch, and under the original approval of this subdivision, in order conditions that was valid until, it was extended until 2016, now no longer valid. I treated that area as like inland bank, a resource area under the Wetlands Protection Act. The consultant for Allen and Major basically stated there's underwhelming evidence that there's actually a resource area there. Doesn't look to be, doesn't have the hydrology, doesn't look like water's flowed through it, doesn't have the vegetation. So he's not treating it as any type of resource area, which we agree with him on that, because obviously we can't see any water flow in that area either. It just seems to be, runoff that leads from the northern property through the locust property into the bog system that's to the south of this site. So that has been removed. Also on this page, the large blue isolated wetland, or greeny blue isolated wetland, that's mapped as a potential vernal pool under Mass GIS. Now, to review vernal pool characteristics, that usually can't be done until, late spring or early summer.
When it dries up.
Yeah, to make sure or actually when it's wet, to make sure it has the water for 2 consecutive months and has the various
critters in them that it has to have.
All right. So there's been no site changes in this area since the original approval. It was labeled as isolated vegetated wetland initially, and that's how we moved forward on the original design. This new revised plan assumes that it's a potential vernal pool, a vernal pool. So in doing so, the local regulations, a local bylaw has a more stringent definition for the boundaries of a vernal pool. Under the state, if it was a vernal pool, the boundary would extend as far as the boundary of the actual resource area. So typically the boundary of the isolated vegetated wetland. That's there highlighted in green. Under the local regulations, a local bylaw, the boundary of the vernal pool is the peak annual surface water, doing a study and doing a study, a surface water study, rain event, and assuming no infiltration in that depression, figuring out the peak boundary, and then adding 100 feet to that. So on the plan, I highlighted within the blue the peak boundary of the surface water under an annual storm. It's more of a darker blue line within that shaded green hatch. And then 100 feet out from that is the boldest blue line that's on there. That would be the boundary of the vernal pool. Then there would be a buffer zone associated with that. And I have the 3 lines shown 30, 50, and 100. As part of this project, we are holding a minimum 30-foot setback off of the potential vernal pool. It's actually outside of jurisdiction of the isolated vegetated wetlands because we're almost 130 feet, 30 feet from the vegetated wetland. That yellow area is the area that's work within 100 feet of the nearest resource areas. And in this case, most of the work involves the installation of a drainage basin, infiltration basin, that'll capture and infiltrate stormwater runoff. The original designs also included 2 housing lots on the southern side of the roadway. Due to the potential vernal pool boundaries, we relocated those to the north of the roadway. So there'll be no house construction even within 100 feet of that potential vernal pool. So that was the most significant change to the resource areas. The consultant for Allen Major basically agreed with all the delineations everywhere else. They had adjusted 2 wetland flags. One was like 3 feet and one was 4 feet. And the last item that was discussed, probably be on the 4th page. In the lower left-hand corner, those red hatches, those are curry bogs. There's a series of 4 curry bogs on the abutting properties. They're all tied together. They have culverts or flumes that direct and hold water as it moves southerly. When these bogs were active, at the moment, the lowest elevation bog in that series was the one directly to the left of that infiltration basin that's proposed. The consultant stated that there were vernal pool characteristics, but Mass GIS doesn't label it as a potential vernal pool or certified vernal pool. We don't feel that it's a vernal pool. It does have an outlet pipe that it is at the bottom of the ditch of the the old cranberry bog ditches that feeds down into the wetlands to the south of this project. There may have been some standing water or ponding, but I believe it's just from the slow release as water moves from the northerly bogs down through and exits this property to the south. Again, that wasn't labeled as a vernal pool or potential vernal pool on the original permit. So in this case here, calling it a cranberry bog, it is a resource area. There is a 100-foot buffer zone associated with that. And we do show the zoning or the wetland setbacks on that plan. In this case here, we are keeping a 50-foot buffer from that resource area. And it just happens to work out pretty good that there's not much really usable space within the 50 feet. So holding a 50-foot in this situation makes sense for this area. Again, these lots are all residential, single-family house lots. They'll all be subject to a 30-foot, or individual house lots are subject to 30-foot wetlands, no-touch zones. That basically discusses the major changes to the resource areas. If you want to pan up to, I believe, the second page. You'll see there is, to the north of the project, colored in blue, an old reservoir and a couple old cranberry bogs highlighted. We are proposing, again, in this area, a 50-foot buffer to the resource areas. I did make a note in one of the responses to Allen and Major that's posted in one of my response letter. There is just one section of roadway where we are doing work within the 50-foot, but it's within the footprint of the old road that bisects this property. So there's really no vegetation there at the moment. It's going to require a little bit of filling to bring the road bed, existing roadway bed, up to the proposed grade of the roadway bed, and then it will be loam and seeded. And that area is within the shoulder of the roadway. So there's no proposed pavement at all within any 50 feet of that buffer zone. If you want to go to the page right below.
Yep.
So most of the work on this site is buffer zone work only, except for that first little wetland filling at the entrance. The consultant did discuss, as part on his review letter, some of the work that's proposed in this yellow hatch on that. He had wondered why we couldn't keep that work outside a 100-foot buffer zone in that area. Now, if anybody that's been there, this area of the property is completely void of any vegetation, topsoil. It's pretty much sand pits at this point. So we proposed, for the most part, a 50-foot buffer along the most southerly wetland, which is the green hatch on there. And then as it rounds up towards the roadway that's more dead center of the plan, it follows the 50-foot, and then at one point extends to the 30-foot no-touch zone. Again, this area is within one of these residential lots, which would be subject to a 30-foot no-touch. The erosion control that will be placed in there will be set in sand, and then all the area on the project side of the erosion control, which you can kind of see is a green hatch as well. So there's a yellow hatch and a green hatch. The yellow hatch represents all the areas of jurisdiction that are within 100 feet of the resource area. We are proposing in this area, which is all sand pit right now, we use this as our stockpile area where we can strip topsoil from the remainder of the project, store it here for use on the project, including, moving soils around for when you're building the roadway, and there'll be lots of material moved back and forth. So this seemed like an ideal place because we don't have to clear anything. It's already cleared for the most part, that area. So it is already, you kind of see from the topo, it's got some ups and downs, but by the time we're done, we'd like to just level it off. Once it's leveled off, we're going to create some 3-to-1 slopes adjacent to the resource area, adjacent to the erosion control barrier. And the green hatch represents areas that we're looking out for future development. These are areas that we don't need to work in. So we'd like to restore some of this area with on-site topsoils just to get a good material for vegetation to regrow. So some of the back lots of Lot 53 and 52, and as you move south on the plan, most of that area is actually in the open space area that we're going to try to revegetate. That area right now is just sand, so any stormwater runoff, anything that does run off has the potential of sands being washed southerly, because most of the topography in that area runs towards the south. That green hatch also runs to the left side of that plan where we have an emergency overflow ditch. That is the far left side plan. There is a riprap spillway. It's above the elevation of a 100-year storm event, so these drain infiltration basins will contain a 100-year storm event. That's an emergency overflow should there be any storm larger than that. That will overflow over that riprap and run through a grass swale and kind of dissipate in that lower area of the open space. It's pretty level and flat in that area. It's the lowest point of that sand pit. But most of that area, or at least most of the area outside of the 50-foot, is proposed to be at least reloamed with some on-site topsoils. And I believe we're actually calling out for some erosion control seed mix just to at least get something started right away, just to recreate a buffer in that area where there really isn't any. So that's the majority of the work that was discussed under the resource area review by the consultant. There's another letter from October that handles a lot of drainage questions. We've addressed all of that. We're still waiting for comments from the consultants, so we fully expect the commission's not going to close this tonight, and we request a continuance once discussion's over to let the consultant finish his review. I just wanted to briefly go over the major changes to the design so you have an understanding if you're looking at pre and post between the first set and the second set and reading through my comment letters and the consultant's letters. But that should wrap up a majority of what I think we should discuss tonight. If you have any other questions regarding anything else, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay. A lot. Josh, your comments, please.
Brad, I know you haven't received the full report yet, but would you like to discuss any of the 21E? I know you did receive at least a letter from them.
Yeah, so we did receive a 2-page summary of the report. We don't have a full report. That report's probably in the 400-page range, just with the normal paperwork and the testing that took place. That document is online. They described what was done on the site. We went throughout the sandy areas on the property around the pond. Again, we're not proposing any work in that area. There's nothing proposed in the sand areas around the pond, except for this area here in the back of these lots, which are sand. We did do a couple test pits in that existing sand area, but there were a couple test pits there and 18 test pits throughout. They took soil samples and did laboratory analysis on it. There's also 4 monitoring wells installed down below groundwater, and those wells were pumped, and then samples were taken and tested. And they also walked into the pond and took surface water and sediment from the pond. So based on all their testing, which is part of that full report with multiple pages, there's no reportable limits of any hazardous oil or hazardous materials or VOCs or PFAS. So basically a clean site. Obviously, it's been worked on, but nothing that's, you know, a Superfund site as has been said by some abutters. So.
Yeah, if I could just amplify on that a little bit, you know, at the previous hearing, I believe there were allegations of half-buried barrels and things of that nature. In fact, when we were out with the commission and with Josh the first time that you couldn't make it, Sandy, somebody showed up and promised to show areas of contamination on the site, and when they got to these alleged areas, they just drew a blank. There was nothing there. There was no evidence that anything had ever been buried there. There was no evidence of any hazardous materials or oil being leaked. And actually, they went down with Josh to see it, so what wasn't there. So we know there's a fair amount of trash out there. I was just discussing that in the hall with Brad. And, you know, you're going to have to get 5 or 6 good-sized dumpsters in there, at least to get rid of the junk that's on there. There's no doubt about that. You've got tires, you've got TVs. You saw the boat.
Boat hull.
You know, the SS Minnow, that's where its final resting place was, apparently. So that's all going to be cleaned up. So certainly we acknowledge that, but that's not hazardous material. That's just trash. That's just garbage. That's just stuff that's going to get hauled off and gotten rid of. The site is very clean from an environmental perspective. Now, obviously, you can't run around and test every square foot for stuff. That's just not practical. But in the area where the operations were, the monitoring wells went in, they came back clean. The pits are all clean. I actually went through the 400 pages of stuff, I guess you could say. The interesting part for you people, I think, is the narrative that's going to be in the report. But, you know, to the extent that anybody has, you know, made claims that it's contaminated or there were midnight dumping runs out there and people were emptying, you know, this, that, and the other thing, we just didn't see it, and neither did the consultant.
So I will hold my final comments till we receive the final peer review letter, just to get all that wrapped up. But, you know, Brad did just want to come and let the commission know where we are at in the process.
All right. Questions? I'll start with Autumn.
Have we had a hydrology assessment done in this area? Just because there are a few isolated vegetative wetlands being impacted by this project. I'm just curious to know if the leveling and the development in this area would impact the surrounding land.
So surface groundwater basically runs from the north to the south, or maybe even from the northeast to the southwest. That's both taken from groundwater mapping and also from groundwater measurements that we're taking in the monitoring wells, so we have an idea which way the water's flowing. The only isolated wetland that we're impacting is the one that's up in the bog. That's the direct impact, page number 1. It's about 14, down a little bit. On the left-hand side there, right where, there we go. It's about 1,400 square feet of small isolated wetland. I believe that the excavation that took place in that area, actually both of those small little areas, just extended deep enough so it's closer to groundwater. It's supporting the hydrology. It's supporting wetland vegetation. And LEC delineated that small pocket right there. In regards to remaining areas, I don't think there's going to be any impact. We have designed this project anticipating full build-out, so all our stormwater drainage and infiltration basins assumes, 100% development on each lot, grass, and impervious areas and driveway. And that's all spelled out in our report. It was all questioned by the consultant. And all that area, all that runoff is then treated, both in accordance with stormwater management standards but also with local regulations, a local bylaw that increases those requirements. So there's a total suspended solids removal rate that's required on these projects under the stormwater management standards. That's 80%. Under the local, it's 90%. So prior to infiltration, the final TSS removal should be a 90% removal. To achieve that, we are providing proprietary separators. It's the final drainage manhole before the water is discharged into these infiltration basins. And at each manhole prior to the last, flared end section pipe provides all that treatment. So these infiltration basins are treating, our infiltration system is containing the 100-year storm. All the piping and the structures ahead of time provide all the treatment that exceeds stormwater management standards and actually exceeds the towns. I think the report, it's like 92.5% removal. And that's also assuming that the proprietary devices get the 50%. And that is according to the consultants, the standard that these proprietary devices get, the 50%, although based on the company's testing, you're getting far greater TSS removal rates. There's very limited studies on testing on those, so there was a study in Rhode Island, I believe, that said that, 50% is the max that can be used in these designs. So that's what we limited it to.
Are you comfortable with that answer?
For now. Is it possible to replicate any of the disturbed wetlands on these plans?
Yes, there is. Yep. It's not something that's brought up in the bylaw, so that's why we didn't do it, but there's space. We've already thought about that. About 1,400 square feet. There's an area attached, I guess, just over to the right-hand side of that sheet, that IVW. So just on the right-hand side of that blue, the dark blue IVW hatch, light blue, I'm sorry, light blue, a little further up on the screen. So if you look at this plan here, the original design included a drainage infiltration basin pretty much in the location of those test pits. It's almost dead center of the plan. You see a little black and red boxes. That whole area right now was a sand excavation pit, kind of combined next to this infiltration, or IVW, which again was probably a sand pit at times too. Looking at old photography going back to at least the 50s, that was a lot smaller, and you could see it get bigger from excavation, similar to the rest of the bog areas around. So there was a lot of sand removal. So that area, and completely from those test pits to the south, it's pretty much open, flat, disturbed area. So just kind of where the cursor is a good spot that we feel would be a good little area to replicate anything. The surface elevations are pretty much really low to the elevations of the IVW, so there wouldn't be too much excavation necessary to excavate out and then transplant or move wetland soils from the isolated wetland over to a replication area.
But that's another wetland area that's already existing. So you're proposing to replicate wetlands in an existing
Next to
wetland?
it, next
Okay.
to it, yeah. So it'll make it bigger.
So would that affect the borders on this plan for?
Would, I suppose, if it was truly a vernal pool, which hasn't been on the past one, again, we're designing under the assumption that it's a vernal pool.
Okay.
If we add, whatever, it's a small area, if it's roughly, 30 feet wide on that plan, that would put the buffer zone out another, vernal pool about another 30 feet. It'd we wouldn't be doing any work within that boundary. But again, that's assuming that it's a potential vernal pool.
Okay, thank you.
Paula Jean.
No questions at this time, thank you.
Carol.
No questions, thank you.
Michael.
Just refresh my memory really quick. These 56 lots, they're for single-family homes, or are they for larger developments like condos, single row homes?
Single-family
Maybe
houses. Yep.
single-family homes?
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, I'll see my comments from
Yeah.
Josh then. Thank
And
you.
those are nothing to do with house construction as part of this application. About, I don't know the exact percentage, but I'll just say 50% of the lots probably have some type of buffer zone within the boundary. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to require a notice, because the boundary might be so far towards the back of the lot, we don't need to do work. But if there are lots that propose work within 100 feet of any of the resource areas, there will be a separate application under your review.
Okay, thank you.
Donna.
No questions, thank you.
Joe.
None for me, thanks.
Okay, my turn. The pond. You had mentioned there is a, how many access points do you plan to create to get to that pond?
Under this application, none.
None, so there,
Nothing's proposed around that pond, except, I guess, in the northeast corner, where some of the work is within 100 feet of the bordering vegetated wetland around the pond, but nothing around, I guess, the east side,
so
south
somewhere
side.
down the line, you're going to come to us, and can we have communal access to the pond and clearing and a path around it, and that will come later?
That could be. I mean, there is a path pre-existing already. There is a path that goes around the pond.
Yeah, but how do the people get to it?
There's a couple areas where it's actually cleared out right now. We didn't take that walk because it is considerably further around, but there are a couple areas where they're nice, easy access points. One, I guess, kind of on the east side, halfway between the north and south of the pond, there was a nice, kind of right down in that cursor area. Actually, you could probably see the chair. Well, you can't see the chair, but
Yeah,
I think
you
right
can-
there,
yep.
yeah, it's right there with the boat.
Canoe.
with the-
there we go.
Yeah, and you can see where people have gone out into the water there historically, because there's nothing on the bottom, so that's where people have entered on that side.
And then at the southern end of the pond, there's a pretty open sandy spot,
Yep.
too. The north side of the pond, you were there, you've seen it, where they basically, that sand pit that's up in the upper left, right-hand corner, that's pretty much where they were operating from. So there wasn't much excavation and removal in that area. I think Phil might have just been moved around during the progress, but they didn't actually excavate to create, take the material out. So that grade there, as you saw, was higher than the pond in that northern area. So it wasn't an easy access getting down. We did walk down one path.
That was quite eroded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you know also, Sandy, around the perimeter of the pond, up on the high ground, there's a path that's fairly well used.
Yeah, you can see it on the map there.
Yeah, and I mean, the bottom line is, even though the gravel operations, closed up in 2006, 2007 or whatever, you've got the local people out there with their quads zipping around and dirt bikes and all this, that, and the other things. So they've actually, managed to maybe confer a benefit on these residents by creating those paths. Not intentionally, but just because,
Probably just
of their activity.
maintaining them. That's basically what
They
it
might actually be. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if you're on a dirt bike, you're going to cut that branch that's going to smack you in the helmet, so.
We did have access to the stormwater operation and maintenance plan. How many hundreds of pages?
They're normally a few hundred.
Oh, it was quite, now, reading it through, I don't know whether or not I can comment on it, but can I? Sump pumps. Do you expect these homes would be required to have sump pumps?
No, so building code requires the basement slab to provide at least 2 feet of separation from seasonal high groundwater, so.
Looking at the sediment forebay and anyway, that basin, I have a question for you. It says, even to the point that if you're going to wash your car, non-detergent cleaners, and the preferred method is to clean a vehicle at a vehicle washing facility. Is that specific? It's go to the car wash, don't do it in your yard?
It's long-term care, so it's the maintenance. You don't want, obviously, a lot of chemicals. But, you know, people do wash their cars, but mainly it's just your standard.
Then it talked about the pet waste. Flush it. I'm really not going to flush kitty litter down there to go into my Title V system. I was just surprised at some of the things. I gather this is pretty standard documentation as to what to do for maintenance.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that would be perhaps incorporated into a homeowners association agreement and, you know, made part of the acquisition process for the individual buyers, that they'd sign on to, you know, take these steps.
I would say the HOA's got to be pretty nasty.
Clean up your pet waste. That's pretty.
You need to move there and take it over, Sandy.
I'm just going to, because I was just concerned that I wanted to make sure that if there was going to be sump pumps, there would be no stormwater discharge into the stormwater discharge basins, no discharge into the septic system, and discharge only to the outside structure. But you're telling they will not have sump pumps. They may have drainage components to the cellar, which is required, but not.
Some of the properties, as listed on the plans and spelled out in our report, will require roof dry wells, so roof runoff will be contained. That's the only proposed drainage that would be required on some of these lots as part of this project.
Okay. The overall approval, you're here. And my question is, at what point do you start clearing the forest? Only for the roads and the stormwater, or do you start clearing everything, anticipating these 56 units?
No, I think on the plans I spelled out where I would clear the right-of-ways or the areas needed to construct the roadways.
So it really is just, I'm going to cut my trees down and do my roads, and that's about this limit in my cul-de-sacs and things like that.
Yep.
So each individual lot would have to be reviewed for what trees can stay, what trees can be cut.
At least
then within our 100-foot for us,
if it's under your jurisdiction areas, some of these lots, like all the interior lots,
they're outside of us. We
They're
have no,
outside. You have
we
no
have no
juris-
say.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we can't say you can't, don't have to save that 200-year-old tree.
Yep.
That's outside of us.
Yeah.
Darn.
Well, that doesn't mean none will be saved.
I know, but the idea is trying to save as much of the old growth as possible in there. I mean, I hate the idea of having us bulldozed and absolutely everything cleared outside of 100 foot of our wetland.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not intended to do that. We do have small lots, though. It's the purpose of a cluster.
Yes, yes. And I know insurance companies are going to say, I want trees cleared within X amount of feet from the structure because of insurance and the trees topping and whatever, but, all right, I'm trying to think, is there anything else I wanted to, before we opened it up to the public? You gave us a lot. I can't say I digested it all, but I tried to listen.
This was just the appetizer. Wait until you get the final.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to start with anybody online. Any hands up? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this particular project with what we've heard today? I can see one hand.
One.
Come on forward and identify yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Catherine Harrelson, and I work for Community Land and Water Coalition, which is a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization. And I just have a question for the Conservation Commission. Will the public be given more time to review the information that was presented here tonight and the results of the 21E assessment?
Yes, because we are going to continue waiting for that information.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just want to make sure that this wasn't the close of the public
We are
hearing.
not closing, we are continuing.
Okay, thank you very
There
much.
is a lot to go through.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I know. Come on up.
Thank you. Nancy McHale, West Wareham. I just had a couple of questions about some of the things that Brad had said in terms of the revegetation and the soils, putting in loam, et cetera. This area appears, at least to me, to be prime pine barrens, coastal pine barrens habitat, which is very specific. And the request that I think we should all be making is that we conserve as much of that native species as we possibly can. Therefore, any new soils that get put in that area should be compatible with the pine barrens, and any species that are planted, any grasses, et cetera, need to be native. And the other question that I had is, it sounds like an intricate stormwater system with the manhole filters, et cetera, et cetera. Who is going to be ultimately responsible for maintaining those so that they function optimally?
Peter?
That responsibility would go to the homeowners association.
And how is that going to be monitored? Homeowners associations seem to have sometimes dubious follow-through.
Well, at that point, you just have to put the right people in charge of the association. That's what it comes down to in every single one of these.
Planning board be in charge of that type of regulation
Yeah.
and follow-through and stuff like that. So they could very well be something by the planning board that says, we want to report every X amount of months and whatever as to what's being done and what.
Okay. Looking at the topographical, I want to say isobars, but they're not isobars. How close together those are makes me worry about the slope of some of the lots, particularly like 51, 52, 53. Are those going to be maintained with those slopes?
Peter? Or
Well,
Brad, either.
Brad can answer that, and I'll follow on.
Yeah, so lots 51, 52, 53 are all currently within that open sand pit area. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah. So those areas are going to be our stockpile area, and when we're done, it will all be all level, except for the maximum 3-to-1 slopes I call for on the plan. So your typical slope to be able to plant some grasses in these properties.
Okay, so that,
Overall, the site is, besides this one area where there was past earthwork activities, the site's pretty level throughout the site. So this is the only area where there's, I would say, there's grading that's going to be needed on these lots. And that's the reason why we have the stockpile area. It's already open, so it's a good place to stockpile, spread it out, level it off, create a nice, good working area. And that good working area will eventually be a nice area to develop a lot in the future.
You mean not going to keep it as a sand pit?
Try not to.
They don't want to create another Shangri-La?
okay. Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm sure, I suspect
be
it may
back
not
up.
be my last questions, but thank you.
Anybody else would like to comment? Yes, please.
Kathy Pappalardo, Fearing Hill Road. I was just thinking about it, the road that's going to be winding all through here, will that have storm drains? And is this, not that this is your purview, but is that going to be a town road? Or is the homeowners association going to take care of that?
I think that's a little early to say who's going to have ownership of the road, but Brad?
It's maybe private. I'm not sure if the town is accepting any more roads at this point, but it's going to be a private roadway. And yes, it's all, there's storm drainage, and that was
It will be
discussed earlier.
built as required
Yeah.
for sloping and trail and, yeah,
Yep.
drainage and all that stuff
Yep.
that goes
Yep.
along with a wide enough road for emergency and,
Exactly, yep. And that's currently being, I guess, re-reviewed by the consultant right now. All our responses to his concerns, setbacks between structures, everything has been addressed, and we're still waiting on his report.
Because the lots are on the small side, and if I remember correctly, they're going to have town water, and each lot was going to have a Title V or a nitrogen-reducing septic system.
Yes, a nitrogen-reducing septic system and town water.
Are they, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
okay. Anything else? Anybody else? I believe we are going to continue. Do you have a particular time frame? You want to go to 3/6 or 3/20? Or further out?
Let's try 3/6. I think the only thing that's kind of holding us up right now is the review by the consultant. And if he's had it for at least a week, so I'm thinking if we can get the information within, hopefully he has something within a week, that would give us, a week to digest that material.
Josh, good for you?
Yeah, I think if, the commission has held that they want to see any new material a week in advance of the meeting.
Yep.
So if we don't get it by the 28th, we'll look at continuing to our
That's fair.
second hearing in March.
Okay.
All right.
So, if anybody else, I would like to have a continuance until 3/6.
All right, motion continue till March 6th.
Second.
And a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, for 500 to continue. The next hearing was Russell McKinnon, and the request was to continue until 3/6.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, motion to continue till March the 6th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The next one we have is Dan C. would like a continuance until March 6th.
All right, same thing.
Motion to continue to March 6th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. Okay, and then we have Smith, 15 Narrows Road. We still don't have the plan for the 30-foot setback, do we?
We received those today.
Oh, a little late. So we have a continued until 3/6.
All right, motion continue till March the 6th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. We're continuing. We have no extension request, no certification amended. Next we have is an enforcement order.
No, so they have until March 6th to supply us with a notice of intent, and I haven't heard from them as of yet.
But you did deliver their stop working.
Yes, and I sent the enforcement order certified, return receipt required, and they did sign for it, so. Someone is aware of it. So someone signed for it.
Okay, the next we have is review and acceptance of 2 sets of minutes. I'll start with January 7, 2024. There were some comments made, and I believe they've been done, correct, Josh?
Any comments that were made to the minutes I have revised.
Thank you. So January 17,
All right, motion to accept minutes from January 17th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Minutes of February 7th, 2024.
Same thing, if I receive comments, I have revised those minutes.
Okay,
Motion to accept minutes from February 17th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Next thing we down, Anything else before we go to the donation of 33 Indian Nick Road?
No.
The acceptance of the donated 33 Indian Nick Road.
So again, this was a property that was donated to the Conservation Commission and the town by John Deacus. It could be anywhere from 10 to 15 years ago. The town, at town meeting, voted to approve the donation, and then there was never any follow-through
And
to acquire the property.
you're asking us to,
So I believe it was Wildlands Trust reached out to us and said, John Deacus is interested in, finalizing the donation of this property. He has offered it to Wildlands Trust, but because there was, a town meeting and approval, that the town has first rights to, take the donation or not.
has anything, you heard anything about saying yea or nay to this or anything like that? No comments from the,
So from what I understand, Wildlands Trust is willing to accept it as a donation of land into their, into their list of properties that they currently own, but they wanted to give the town first refusal, I guess.
is it up to, the town
So-
meeting has said they accept the donation?
Yeah, 10 or 15 years ago.
And
I
what-
haven't looked at the town meetings to figure out when it was. I just don't have it in my bandwidth right now to do that. But that has been proven that it was.
And our step is to do what?
I would say, given the nature of it being so long ago, we should just move through the entirety of that process again.
Okay,
So I think we would start with the Conservation Commission. Is this a property that we feel is important to the town? And then we would bring it to the Select Board to get their opinion on whether they want the town to own it or not. And then we would bring it through town meeting again.
because it has been so long.
We
So-
don't have to do it, but that's what I would recommend.
It would be a recommendation by Conservation Commission that the town formally accept the donation? Is that what I'm hearing?
Or to accept the donation in front of us.
Okay. Because I'm sure the selectmen are involved in some, select board is involved in some way, because I think they're the final say on accepting.
It's either them or the town administrator, or both of them jointly. But I can, just so we're all clear on where this property is, I can bring it up.
It's in the corner of Indian Nick and Narrows, opposite a sewer pump station.
So it is,
And there's a pond, and the railroad tracks on one side. That's it,
How big
Right
is it?
there.
How many acres?
oh,
barely 1.5
Yeah.
maybe.
probably less than 2, I'm not sure.
There's a little upland close to Indian Nick.
Mhm.
You can see some drainage in there, and it flows under the road in, and comes out next to the property on Indian Nick that they want to build their house on. There's that drainage. So it's a tidal flow, a pond,
Right.
surrounded by train tracks and roads. And honestly, it has been for years and years a place to go catch your minnows for fishing. So there's a little pathway down. There was a parking area, but somebody put in boulders, so they can't park there anymore. But you'll find fishermen going down there catching their minnows for their bait. Well, at least that's what it was when I was growing up. I don't know if there's still minnows there or not, but that was a long time ago.
Since I've been involved with the town, I know this northerly pond has been good for minnowing and crabbing, and people do like to use it. It is considered private property, but that really doesn't stop people from doing it. If the town did acquire this southerly portion, it's possible that we can make a small parking area to give you know,
Yeah.
the residents the
The
ability to
parking
do that.
area was would put boulders on it because people would go down there, then trash. The amount of trash we picked up on the walkway to get to the pond was horrendous, and the group in charge of trash pickup asked that the area be put boulders on there to prevent people from easily going down and dumping with the nasty things we found down there.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of concern from the railway since there was the tragic accident that happened behind, what is the name of that street there? Merchants Way,
Yeah.
right at the bridge.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other ones that went down on Freight.
Oh, was there another accident? I'm talking about the most recent
No, there
accident.
was several people, at least homeless in the area that had been, yeah, just down the railway from here, but yes. Okay. So, do we vote to recommend that the selectmen accept this property, and then we have to find a holder? We have to get a conservation restriction and a holder for the CR. That would be the recommendation.
We don't necessarily need to put it under a CR. The property is
Pretty minor.
widely unbuildable, so, but it would be, you know, part of the catalog of the land the commission holds, and, you know, it would be something that we could introduce for vegetation management, or, you know, improving the resource area there.
Or training site, education site, and, okay. So I'm looking for a recommendation to the select board to accept this property under the control of Conservation Commission. Is that the right way to put it?
Correct.
So moved.
Second?
Don't ask me to repeat it. Any comments before I go for the vote? I'm not going to ask any comments. So that be the motion, and I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. So will you please put a documentation to the select board? I never get it, select board. Ask them to accept it and to be under our control. Whether or not it goes to town meeting, I think it's up to them to say whether or not they want to recertify the acceptance of the donation. It's been so long.
Right, and we're quickly approaching deadlines for town meeting as well, so.
Yeah. Special spring, I think, is third week in March or something like that, so.
March 25th.
Yeah, the deadline for annual, I believe, is next week, so we can't do that one, but,
Right.
okay. Then I'm sure everybody is here for the next topic. The jetty at Pinehurst, right? Finally. All right. Josh, would you like to take the lead on this one, please?
Sure, so, I'll pull it up on the map, just so we're all clear on what we're discussing. So the commission recently approved the construction of a jetty in the Pinehurst area where a previous jetty was existing. And during the process of construction of the jetty, there was an amount of sand that was regraded to essentially speed up what I guess would naturally occur. But the sand that was regraded may not have been the exact sand that would have ended up there. So normally with these projects, you would build the structure, and then there's an entrapment level within the structure that should be filled to meet the flow of the tides, and that entrapment is normally where you would see the buildup of sand over time. So that entrapment layer is ideally where you want to get to. There was a recommendation from Mass DEP to receive an amended order of conditions for the work that was performed that wasn't approved by the commission. And there were some concerns about the abutter notification within that, that would have been addressed in the amended order. After, a couple conversations with Mass DEP, it appears that they have reversed their stance on the abutter notification, saying that the acceptance of the notice of intent and the approval of a DEP number satisfied the abutter notification to the abutters that were notified. So the state no longer sees that as a issue in terms of enforcement. So at our last hearing, I believe it was, I supplied the commission with a letter from an abutter in the area, and the concerns that the sand that was moved wasn't approved by the commission. So I guess the discussion tonight is, does the commission want to follow through with requiring an amended order for beach nourishment of that area?
Of work that's already been done.
Correct.
And you're here representing, please come forward and identify yourself as representing the Pinehurst Beach Association or whatever title is.
My name's David Moore. I'm one of the trustees of the Pinehurst Beach Association. At the time when we were doing the work, as the jetty had deteriorated, the stone structure had deteriorated, we were getting a lot of sand erosion, and the footing of the new seawall that had been permitted, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, the repairs to the seawall, the footings were being exposed. And the sand that was on that footing had moved about 50 to 75 feet upstream with erosion or water action, I guess you could say, because of the jetty being gone. Now that the jetty is in place, at the time, we spoke with the contractor. We had a number of town officials out there at the time, and we said, could we move the sand back to where it was? And so they didn't come up against the neighboring seawalls. They stayed back, 6, 8 feet, maybe 10 feet, and they pushed the sand that had washed away from the seawall, they pushed it back. It was about 20 yards. They moved it about 50 to 75 feet downstream.
Toward the jetty? Toward
the jetty, yes. Because it had become quite eroded through there. A number of big rocks had come up and so forth. And we were afraid we were going to lose the seawall. So rather than, we had the equipment there, said, everybody okay with this? Yep, everybody's okay with it. Let's push it back. So they pushed it back. We didn't bring any additional sand onto the beach for replenishment because that wasn't part of the order of conditions. We just moved it back to where it started. And if you go out there now, I've taken some pictures from today, and everything appears to be pretty good right now. Josh has been out there and looked at it. We don't see any erosion problems. There's no undermining of anybody's seawall. The area where the sand was that we moved back towards the jetty, be to the left of that big picture, is higher now than it was in 2019, and it's about where it was when we started. So everything appears to be pretty good.
Okay, Josh, looking at that picture, the right side is the jetty.
That's correct.
The lighter area with a lot of little stones is the end of the paper street that had been steps that had fallen in disrepair. The town did.
Correct. I have an image of what exists.
Then we have the seawall, which is on the association's property, correct?
Yes. I have some current pictures that were taken today, and I've been taking pictures right along. Every 5 or 6 weeks, I go out to take pictures just to keep an idea on how things are moving. And it doesn't appear to be things moving very far anywhere. I mean, things are very well stabilized, and we're happy to see that because, well, you remember what the canyon that we had in
Yes.
in Beach Road.
These are photos of what existed prior to the project.
Because there used to be steps there that you would go down on the paper road for the public to access this beach. Because this road is owned by the town, the access to the beach was for the town residents. And to be honest, this is where we always went swimming at low tide, because there was always water available for the, what was out there, raft was out there when I grew up. Yeah.
Up until the, I think the mid-1970s before it was taken out.
But that's what it looked like. And the town cleaned up this component because the stairs had fallen in disrepair and the rocks were all over the place, and the jetty is there to the right.
It had become eroded from two sides. It had become
Yep.
eroded from ocean action on the front side on high tides and so forth, and it was becoming eroded from
Coming down
the
the streets.
backside
Yep.
with water coming down Beach Road.
Yeah, because there was an issue with the drainage basin in that area too that was always seemed to be backing up and not doing its job.
Well, there is an outfall, a couple houses up the street, upstream, that we had the municipal maintenance out there at the time, and they said, we really can't do anything with that right now because it's going to involve the Conservation Commission, it's going to involve municipal maintenance because it's their water. But the good thing about it is when that system is working, that treats the water, the road runoff.
Yep, before it discharged.
Right. Otherwise, if it doesn't go through that system, it ends up just direct runoff into the ocean.
Is this the picture of the beach before it was moved, the sand before it was moved?
This is a picture from today, it appears. This is what Dave supplied us. And it looks like there's a few more. This is,
That's one of the neighbors who were concerned about it, and you can see the sand is quite high in there right now, and it's been pretty much that way since October. We stayed away from that stone wall. You can see that picture was taken a day or two after the work was done, because you can still see the track marks from the rubber-tied Bobcat right there. But you can see that we didn't go near the wall, and
So you just push that sand toward the jetties, the
Yes.
jetty?
yes, and there's the machine that did it. And
Okay.
there's quite a bit of sand there right now. And the association isn't opposed to beach replenishment. The only question I would have is, where would we put the sand? Because if you put the sand there, just on the other side of that orange kayak is the outfall pipe for the drainage. And that outfall pipe kind of comes and goes with the storms and so forth. You get enough water flow through there, it will blow it out. And but right now, that outfall pipe is completely covered. That outfall pipe is supposed to go through the beach grass area. It's gone now, but on the other side of the beach grass area, you can see the remains of what the outfall pipe. You used to go quite a ways out into the water before it discharged, but right now it's not doing anything. And the association has no problem with, town wants to go there and fix it. Go for it, do it. It will help everybody, because right now we're getting a lot of flooding on the road. With certain tidal conditions and storms, we get stuff like that.
Your recommendation is a amended order of conditions that would have allowed for the moving of the sand toward the jetty?
yes, or the nourishment of the beach to place that fill that was moved back where it was. Which I believe you spoke to the contractor that did the work. How many?
Yes, he
yards did he
estimated,
say?
he moved about 20 20 cubic yards of sand. We've had the sand tested, we've identified a source to get the sand and everything. But again, my question is, if we put it back to where it was, it's going to make it much higher than it was when we started.
I'm thinking the idea is that you moved it down, it will probably go back where you took it from as the water swings up into the river, correct?
It appears to be, sand appears to be building back up in that area.
Yeah.
As, you know, with
It will
every
happen.
storm.
So the jetty is not preventing that from, which was, that was the
You don't have a
intent.
scouring next to where the steps were.
Yeah.
That you had before. We've got a nice layer of sand in there now, 6 inches a foot, and that's pretty much stable. That hasn't moved at all since October.
I think there's probably some people in the audience that want to comment.
Yeah, I know, I'm going
October.
to, I'm just trying to think of what we're looking to, I'm thinking of an amended order of conditions that would have allowed for the sand to have been moved like it was. I'm going that way, but I don't need to, I need to ask your comments.
Yeah, it's inappropriate. I mean, it would be appropriate to have beach nourishment for the sand that was moved.
Yes. So that it would be a formal amended order of conditions to include the beach, to accommodate the beach nourishment that occurred without approval.
Well, the moving of soils without approval.
The moving of soils, which ended up being,
An alteration to the resource area.
Yes.
Is ultimately what it.
do you want an amended order of conditions or a brand new?
It's appropriate to do it in an amended order of conditions.
Okay. All right. Comments from the board? Anybody? Autumn?
Is this a finable activity?
I think so.
All right, thank you.
Paula Jean?
No comments, thank you.
Carol?
No comments.
Michael?
My only comment would be just it's going to go right back up very quickly.
It will. It just, as we said earlier, any beach nourishment that we're doing, it's not permanent.
And this has been going on pretty quickly, no? As you said, because this has been going on for what, past few months, if that?
For 6 months, everything is pretty much stabilized there.
And we've had some pretty rough storms over the past.
We had, about 3 weeks ago, we had water over the association wall, right out to the street. So we came in there and, you know, nothing got washed away. There's no serious erosion. We lost a couple inches out of the yard area. So now the top of our wall is sticking up about 4 or 5 inches. So we're gonna have to do something with that. But the bottom of the wall, the footing has stayed covered. It's not coming up. It's just, everything is stabilized. And I've got pictures to show that. I put some marks on the wall, and I can show that nothing's changed, other than the sand reaccumulating in front of the house with the stone wall as it was before. So I would ask if the board does want to do sand replenishment, we're more than happy to do that, but we just want to know where to put the sand, because I'd be afraid of it washing further upstream and further burying that culvert that's pretty much buried now, because that's really should be fixed between you folks and municipal maintenance. But it's going to involve cutting through all of that beach grass in order to fix that.
All right, that was all. That's just going to come right back very quickly. That's all. But
Donna?
So is it my understanding that the association members were notified of this work being done ahead of time?
The association members, this was a decision that was made the day of the work that was being done, because it was such a...
Please. You'll have your chance in a minute, please.
It was such a, well, everybody who was present felt as though it was such an insignificant action that it was okay to do. I mean, we've been trying to follow all of the rules as much as we can on doing everything. We haven't been You know, we did our filing, and we had on-sites, and Josh has been monitoring the performance of the jetty. You know, we're trying to do everything as best we can, but we didn't see this as a significant operation because we're just moving the sand back to where it started to cover up the footings on the wall. That's where it started. It moved down, and we pushed it back.
Okay. Joe? Donna, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done, thank you.
Joe?
I got nothing here, no. No questions.
All right, now I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the audience would like to speak to this project, but I would like to have, I don't want repeating statements, so choose who you'd like to come to represent your points of view. Please come forward and identify yourselves.
Good evening, I'm Mary Taylor, and I was the one who presented the documents for your review with concern about the jetty. And one of your concerns have been with respect to the ongoing erosion. If you replenish the sand, it's still going to erode. Well, my question is, the jetty presumably was put there to prevent the erosion.
All right.
So it seems appropriate that replenishment would make some sense.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the sand was removed without notifying anybody, I think is a significant problem. There are also some factual differences that...
When you said the sand was removed, it wasn't removed, it was relocated.
Bulldozed, yes.
Down further toward the jetty from upstream.
Onto the Association Beach.
Okay. And where did the sand come from that went to the Association Beach?
The neighboring property.
So the neighbors' sand was lowered in front of their property and bulldozed to the area by the jetty?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And
Now, wait.
Yep. The bulldozer also went in very close proximity to that seawall of the abutter.
Well, okay. But did it hit the wall?
Did the bulldozer hit the wall?
Yeah.
No, but as a result of the removal of sand, now that there's standing water at the bottom of that seawall. When it rains, or when there's a high tide and then the tide goes out, there's considerable water left that will undermine the foundation of that seawall.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to comment on it?
Only that the sand was on association property. It was moved 50 to 75 feet on association property downstream.
So it's my understanding the association owns all of the sand area around the whole Pinehurst, not just in front, So everything, the association owns all of that land
Yes, ma'am.
and all of that sand, even though it's in front of someone else's house.
Yes, ma'am. And in some cases, the cottage owner's walls are on association property.
Okay.
They have produced no evidence to verify that statement.
What,
That they own what PBIA owns. They're making an allegation that they own that land.
Well, okay.
But there's no evidence, there's no survey that demonstrates that. My house,
okay.
they don't own the sand in front of my house. I have a GAF survey that says I own the sand in front of my house. So where's this, this imaginary line that says PBI owns the property in front of people's houses?
I have a question.
All right. Anything else?
I have a question. My name is Sheila Marinucci. I'm also an abutter on the other side.
Slower, spell their last name for the person doing our minutes.
Sheila Marinucci, Marinucci.
Thank you.
I'm an abutter on the other side. We were here before the commission when unbeknownst to us, without communication, and thanks to you, they were required to communicate. The plan was to put the jetty about 15 feet in front of our wall.
Mm-hmm.
And with help of the commission and others, they decided finally, after a year of back and forth, that it could absolutely not be moved. They moved it. So it was moved. Unbeknownst to us also, I had to find out as a surprise, not being communicated to. So there's a pattern of that. A question I have is it helpful to have sand in front of a seawall, or is it better to remove sand from in front of a seawall? So,
Regardless, sand is going to erode no matter where you put
Correct.
it or how you pile it up, but it's going to, if it's going to dig in, it's going to erode your base of all your seawalls. Sand will
Absolutely.
do what it's want regardless.
So during this meeting, the past several meetings on this subject, it's all on public record and all on video, you had recommended some sand to be brought in around the jetty to keep it in place. It's all on video. You can listen to all of it. I guess I'm here in support of the abutter, who was also surprised by this because we'd been surprised in the past. To add sand there makes a lot of sense. We are all for sand nourishment, but nourishment, isn't that adding sand, not taking sand away and putting someone else's property in peril and moving it? Nature's gonna do it anyway, you're absolutely right, but why not either let nature do it or add to it? So
I think
that's one question.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
We would like to consider hiring a hydrogeologist to come in and do an assessment.
Well, that would be up to you and your association to pay for it.
No, privately, abutters.
I see, go ahead, I mean, there's nothing,
Disputes with respect to the facts.
well, there's nothing this board can say yea or nay to it. If you want to spend the money, then that's up to you to spend the money, but we won't, I don't think we will, I do not think we would require it. Josh, I don't think, it's up to them if they want to spend the money, but I don't know what it's going to try to prove to you.
I think ultimately your claim is that the removal of sand in front of the seawall of the abutting property has undermined or potentially undermines the seawall. Is it?
Correct.
That would be the claim.
Wasn't that area, clamming area where they put the bulldozer down? Clamming, crabbing, protected areas?
It was not identified through the visa review, no.
So that all that seagrass in there is not.
Well, you did not disturb the seagrass, you went after the sand, correct?
Right, but they came close to the seagrass and over the clamming areas with the bulldozer.
All shellfish beds there.
I didn't see evidence of shellfish beds where they relocated sand.
I've gone clamming there.
Okay.
Question, so during one of the previous meetings, Chairwoman, you had also, when this question of property ownership came up, you had asked them, why not produce a survey? And they said, we will do so, which didn't happen. Secondly, the movement of sand has now caused this pipe to be exposed that's spewing stormwater. It still plugs up on the street. Before, at least it was under the sand and it was filtering somewhat. That pipe must have been broken. It now is spewing, and if you look at past records, you'll see that it was a problem stormwater pipe in the past. It's been flagged on the DEP site, et cetera. So it's almost like that movement of sand certainly didn't help filtration, that broken pipe.
I thought that pipe was on the other side of the grass.
It is now sticking out. The sand has been moved. There's a pipe that spews stuff from the street right over the shellfish beds. Under the grass on the other side is where that pipe used to connect. It doesn't anymore. It is broken. It was hidden for years. It's now been exposed because of the sand movement.
Okay. Thank you.
And that also results in additional erosion from that backup of stormwater.
Thank you. Anybody else would comment? Wait. Thank you.
Good evening. Paul Donatio, 14 Circuit Ave.
And I need you to sit and spell your name slowly for the person who's going to be doing the minutes.
D-O-N-A-T-I-O.
Thank you.
First name Paul, middle initial
and
F.
Paul, your comments, please.
Believe it or not, 100 years ago, I sat on your board when I first moved in here from the big city. Learned a lot back then. Still have some of it tucked away someplace in my brain. The first time I saw the bulldozer on the beach, I kind of like flipped out. To my knowledge, back when I was a member of this board, there was no such thing as equipment allowed on any beach or in any part of this town. Now, all of a sudden, I'm listening tonight, and it's like Hamilton Beach wants to put 400 square yards of sand in. This gentleman doesn't want to put sand in, but my question is when he states that the Pinehurst Beach Association owns all the land in Pinehurst, all?
I said that. It's my understanding that they own the land around the water. Okay, but that was my understanding.
When you say around the water, do you mean all the way up Broad Marsh, all the way around the back of Circuit Ave?
I don't know. I'd have to take a look at a...
Okay, so, and this gentleman has stated that they do own all the land.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I live on Circuit Ave. And there's a bunch of seagrass between me and them and whatever. What I don't understand is, like this gentleman just stated, they did all that work first before they notified any of us.
Well, that's not part of what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss about the beach condition. The communication and within the association is not within our preview. So if you have some comment regarding the work that's done, we'll listen to it. But the other topic is not for us.
My friend lives on the other end of the upstream, as he refers to it, home. They took all her sand from in front of her house and moved it down towards what this gentleman refers to as the jetty.
Yes.
How do you do that? Put yourself in this woman's position. You own that house that I'm talking about. Next thing you know, no one sold you anything, machinery shows up, and they're taking your sand.
I understand that is the topic of what we're talking about, is the movement of the sand. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you. Anything else?
I guess that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment that in the audience that is any different than what we've already heard? Did you want to? You want to come up and ask your question, please, and identify yourself? Then John, I think there's somebody online? Okay.
My name's Susan Taylor, and I'm one of the abutters. My question is, if the sand is sacrificial sand, as they said in the Hamilton Beach, why approve the jetty then? If the sand's going to end up back where it was, then why did you even approve a jetty? I'm kind of confused. Just because it was there in the past and they wanted it now? If it's not really going to keep the sand there, then what's the point of the jetty?
The intent was to try to reduce the scouring that was occurring behind it.
But it's going to continue to do that.
We don't know yet because the jetty is now functional where before it hadn't been. It had fallen to disrepair.
Okay.
So we'll just continue to monitor what is happening there.
Okay.
Online? Sorry, Josh.
Jetties are normally approved to allow for the accretion of sand. And that was the goal of this project.
So who do we have online?
Linda Cooper.
Linda, you're muted. I still see it muted. Okay.
John, are you able to ask
You
her
think-
to unmute? Is that an option?
Her hand is still up, but we can't hear her.
I've asked her to unmute, but she hasn't.
Okay. Oh. Come back up, please.
Hi, Sheila Marinucci again, and then Butter. I was told directly from Josh when we had a conversation where people were worried about sand movement on the beach, and he absolutely confirmed 100% that the only movement of sand that would take place would be the sand potentially being brought in, based on your suggestion, around the jetty. And I said, there's concern that sand may be moved from up above. He said the only way that could happen is manually with rakes. And that's not what transpired.
Well, we know that.
Yeah, just, you know.
The work was done, the movement of the sand was not permitted. Therefore, even how it was moved was not permitted, so that's why we're here.
I didn't know that was clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? If not, what would you like? We'll just continue our discussion, waiting to see the amendment order to conditions.
Just one comment on the ownership of the beach. We pay taxes on it. We have surveys on either side of the clubhouse, either side of the stone wall that you saw in the pictures. There was concern. We have survey markers in both corners so that we know that that stone wall is probably 8 or 10 inches on association property. That stone wall, we dug down in front of the stone wall, and it's almost 2 feet below the sand now. So there's no, and even when it's not being eroded,
Okay.
it's being built up.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, so we wait for the amended order of conditions and discuss the issue of replenishment of the beach. Josh, anything else?
I think that's appropriate. There was a butter notification for this project. It does identify individuals that are located around the clubhouse. What I guess the whole way this came about was this project has been on and off in front of the commission for, maybe 2 or 3 years now.
Quite a few.
It was well before I had started with the town. And the applicant was directed by our prior agent on specific notification standards, I guess. Normally, when we receive an application, I will review the abutter list, review who was notified. This project was already in front of the commission. I will be honest, I did not do that. So with my discussions with Mass DEP, they said that, with an amended order of conditions, the appropriate abutter notification should be done. And then they backtracked and said the acceptance of the notice of intent and the issuance of the DEP file number ratified the abutter notification. So as far as the prior project, there was no issue with the abutter notification for the project.
Do they use the same abutter notification for the amended?
So DEP said the commission has the ability to approve abutter notifications.
That didn't answer my question. Do they put it out to the same people they did initially? Or to everybody that owns, that's along the beach for all of Pinehurst?
Again, it's really up to the discretion of the commission. I can show you what the abutter notification would look like for this project.
I would say we use the same notification that they did for the initial order, notice of intent. Unless how many people did you notify for the first one? Dozens, right?
No, this is our third project before
Yep.
the commission. And all the times the conservation agent recommended maybe 6 or 8 abutters, direct abutters to the project.
On either side?
On either side.
Yep.
And if we were to notify everybody, this is why we had the problem with DEP, it would probably increase our notification list at least 10 times.
Yes.
And it would cost us hundreds of dollars
Yes.
to do all of
Yep.
that.
Which is why you were looking at the same
Yes.
6 or so homes on either side of the jetty.
So I would state that the map we're looking at currently, the property lines are not accurate. The commission should make no regulatory decisions on these property lines. But for the project locus, you are looking at notifying abutters of everyone in this teal outline here, where the project was located, actually right where this arrow is located.
But it doesn't include everybody that was on the northern side of the project. Yes, it does, just a few. No, that's the eastern side.
Right, so the project locus was here. I can look at the abutter notification that we originally got, but it appears that it was for 6 abutters around the clubhouse, which is...
On both sides of the jetty? Or just on the clubhouse side?
So Sheila Marinucci would be to the east of the jetty. She was notified.
Which is the right side.
Right, she was notified of the project. And it looks like Suzanne Taylor is to the west of the PBIA clubhouse.
Left
She was
side.
notified as well.
Okay, so
And then there are a few other notifications as well. Yeah, it looks like it may be 97 Pinehurst, 10, that might be an 8. And then it's tough for me to tell on the other ones because they're either a PO box or a mailing to somewhere that's not within the community.
I would say, Dave, the same notifications you did for the notice of intent, do it again for the amended order of conditions.
Thank you. We'll get that.
I don't know how else to say. And then just maybe through your normal communication to your membership without a formal green card return.
So you could require an abutter notification that isn't return receipt required. The applicant could go to the assessor's department, get a certified abutters list for the entire property, mail out mailings to the abutters off of that list, but not have them be certified return receipt required.
Just a normal snail mail?
Just a normal letter.
What is it now, 38 cents a stamp? I can't keep track of it.
60.
I think the major, from what I understand, hearing everyone who's involved, I think the major issues of this project were the lack of notification to abutters, the moving of the sand on the project site, and it's the commission's discretion on who to notify and how, according to Mass DEP.
How many members do you have in PBI? How many members do you have in the association?
We just hit 100 this year. So we're at a break-even point finally.
Of which not all of them are on the beach side.
Right.
So that's something the commission could warrant, is a abutter notification that isn't return receipt required. And as far as, I think one of the major issues is, or one of the major concerns was the sand being removed from in front of the seawall. You know, maybe you start with an amended order to replace sand directly in front of the seawall, because it sounds like that's where there is water building up after large storm events or high tides.
Okay, return the sand from where it was taken, and then replenish with new, nourishment with new.
Right, but I would say even more specifically, directly in front of the seawall, because it sounds like that's where the major issue is.
Seawall, of all the seawalls on which it was removed from.
It appears to only be one. I think it's only one seawall that was affected by the project, and that was of the property neighboring the clubhouse.
Okay.
Yes, but that sand is just as high as it was when we started right now. So I would ask for the guidance of the agent and the commission to come out and take a look and say, okay, we want sand there, and we'll put it.
Okay.
Just tell us where. Thank you.
So I think it would be appropriate to require an amended order of conditions for the commission to approve the work that is proposed, which it sounds like maybe a trip for the commission out to this project to see where the problem areas are.
Okay,
But you would do that in a site visit after
once we have
receiving.
an amended order of conditions to look at. All right. Thank you.
My name's Donna Hanson.
Please come up to the,
Oh, sorry. My name's Donna Hanson. and
you get to the mic and then give us again. Someone's recording this and have to take, write it all down.
Okay, my name's Donna Hanson, and I live on the beach. And I have a quick question. Do you need a permit for a bulldozer to go on a beach?
You need approval to do it, and they didn't have approval.
There are no
Who's
regulations.
accountable for that then?
So there are
Who's
no,
accountable?
there are no regulations that dictate that a bulldozer can or can't be on a beach.
So I
There-
can go to 2 houses down, say, hey, guess what? We're gonna have a bulldozer party and we're gonna have a sand party. And no one can say anything and no one's accountable. Like you can't call the police, you can't call the clam police, you can't, what happens? That's what I don't understand.
If you are using the bulldozers in a manner to alter the resource area, it is the purview of the Conservation Commission under the Wetlands Protection Act and our Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, another quick question. I have seagrass in front of my house. Can I pour bleach and kill it?
No.
No.
Okay, so
Is that
what's the
clean enough? No.
Al-Qaeda clams, no, albino clams. But what I am saying is, what's the difference with a bulldozer with all the oil and the chemicals?
Well, it should never have been there, we know that.
Right, but I mean, is anybody gonna be accountable? Is anybody gonna get fined? Is anyone gonna send
There
out apologies?
there will be a fine associated with this work that was done without being permitted.
Okay, great, and for it not to happen again.
Well, I'm sure that I'm sure they've learned their lesson not to do it again.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you.
Okay?
We'll be in touch.
If not,
Hold on.
did she finally unmute?
Different person.
Different person. Okay, who's up there? It's now getting 8:30. Kevin, you wanted to address the Conservation Commission on the Pinehurst Beach issue? Kevin?
Technology.
Nothing?
They're unmuted.
They're unmuted, but we can't hear them. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
He's talking.
Something came through for a second.
So the commission can set a date on which the amended order should be received by.
Do you have a time frame?
If you so choose.
I can get it to you within the next 2 weeks. I can get it,
Should we indicate that we would like to have it in front of us by March 20th?
So the amended order of conditions would require publication in the Wareham Week, which I need to get to the Wareham Week, the week prior to. So if he can have it to me by the 6th, we can, properly advertise it and he can attend the March 20th meeting.
So there's your target.
can do.
So the March 20th would be the hearing, and give Josh the documents he needs to get it into the,
It's my understanding that amended order request is just a formal letter specifying what we want to do.
Yeah, there is no state form that needs to be filled out. It is a request to the commission of the amendments to the original order.
so you'll just pay for the advertising in the paper
Yes, thank you.
and the notice to abutters without using green cards, maybe.
Just certified.
Yeah, I would say maybe it would be appropriate, since the commission already approved a certain list of abutters,
Notify them. with green
re-notify them,
green
certified return
cards.
receipt required, and then, maybe the rest of the abutter list be notified via regular mail.
And, understand, Dave?
Josh, are you suggesting to notify the other 75 people by mail?
Yes, I would obtain a certified abutters list from the Town of Wareham Assessing Department and notify the rest of the abutters by normal mail, which takes your cost of, a few hundred down to, 38 cents.
Be postcards.
Yeah.
Postcards would be sufficient. You made the notification. It doesn't have to be formal first-class mail.
Thank you.
Is Kevin unmuted yet? Nothing there? Okay. I would say, please come forward and,
The original butter letter said it was gonna be repair of a jetty. It didn't say anything
no,
else.
no, this is not nothing to do with it. This is the,
So what is the amended one gonna say? That we moved sand already and we're
no,
gonna-
we're going to talk about the replenishment of the nourishment of the beach
Each nourishment of.
and the return of the sand that had been moved.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's what we're talking about.
We'll put it where you tell me to, we'll put it where the board
Yeah,
tells me to put
we
it.
want the sand returned to where it came from, and we want nourishment where you need it. How we do it and stuff like that is a discussion for the amended order of conditions.
Understood.
All right, anything else? John, anybody else there? Folks, I think we're at the end of the agenda. If anybody else, if not, please, 8:30.
Do we need to continue? Do we need a motion to
Before you
continue
shut
that
down the
discussion?
Zoom, I
or-
want to test
No?
something really quickly.
Would be a motion to
I want to
adjourn?
see if unmuting myself allows.
We're gonna meet if you back into the room. I did a test before the meeting, so.
And it worked?
On my phone outside the room, it worked fine.
Okay.
I tested before every.
I know you do, I didn't know if something had changed
So-
during the meeting.
I think we're done? Done?
I move that we adjourn?
Yes,
Second.
8:30. That's the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
You have a
Aye.
second?
Aye.
Thank you.
We're done.
All right.